Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on Superman and Lois Season 4, the final season. This is going to be my review for Episode 3, otherwise entitled Always My Hero, and wow. Wow, I don't know. Because honestly, obviously this is like recency biased. Um, I think we, I don't know, I think we might have gotten, arguably, I'm not saying objectively, but arguably the best episode this show's ever done. At least on like just an episode basis and the writing and the. I was just about to swear then, but the god like I'm actually sort of stunned, and I can admit as a at least physically fully grown man, I'd like to think emotionally and mentally as well. I full on cried at the end of this episode because of how well built up it was. And I'm not going to spoil it there because I'm going to give a spoiler warning. Spoil alert, of course, if you don't watch the episode, because I'm going to be talking about everything and all the major, like literally not even like minor, like, oh, the person walked into the room and fell over or something. Massive spoilers for this episode and going forward. Man, they're killing it. They are killing it. Like, you talk about a final season and not just like, sending your show out at least out on a good note, but just I guess after the big break we've had in the stand, like, oh my god, they nailed the first 3 episodes, and I can't wait to see what they have coming our way. But yeah, if you watched the episode and you enjoyed it, let me know in the comment section down below your various thoughts and reactions to this episode. Did you like it as much as I did? And it's not like it was like a, oh my god, like, fun episode, if you know what I mean. It was just such a well-made episode of TV. But yeah, let me know in the comment section down below your various thoughts on this. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, you enjoyed the episode, or at least like the episode, why not drop a like on the video to show support there. Now, of course, leading into this episode, we had the major death of Superman right at the end of episode 1, with us seeing that Doomsday at the end of episode 1 also had Superman's heart, which obviously put a bit of a spanner in the works of Superman coming back to life, because, yeah, if he just took a lot of damage, they could heal him in the Forges of Solitude, but missing your heart, or your head, your brain, there's going to be some issues in regards to coming back to life, because they can't just regenerate I've got a bit almost X-rated there, organs. Now, at the end of last episode, episode 2, we are led to believe that Superman's heart was destroyed, and based off the events of this episode, that was Superman's heart. And that's probably my only criticism, because I won't mention it because it's not really like a major thing in this thing. Like, I think we're like, the only thing is that like they didn't have Lex Luther like flat out saying, no, that was legitimately his heart, it's gone. Like, I don't know if he had any other plans for his heart or anything like that. That's the only thing the episode maybe doesn't mention, at least I didn't catch it, but it's such like a minor thing, it wouldn't even take any points off this episode. But yeah, that's where we lead into this episode. They don't have Superman's heart, pretty much bringing back to life is presumptually out of the equation, so they're sort of screwed. But yeah, as I said, this episode, man, they nailed it. We just have to talk about it. I've already like exclaimed how good it is. Let's break it down. But anyway, we start this episode, what I think most of us, I think literally all of us would have assumed was the funeral for Clark. And we'll talk about what it actually is come the end of the episode, but like, okay, it's a funeral for Clark. And I'll tell you what, in regards to like an emotional roller coaster and everything like that, and just making you you can't really guess what was coming next. They start from literally the opening scene, and I was like, what the hell when we get to the end of the episode? But we'll talk about that when we get there. So we are presumably at the funeral for Clark, and it's Lois and the two boys saying goodbye. As well as the fact that like, Lois ends up publishing the article. I'll jump to this quickly. She publishes the article on Superman dying, but not about Clark Kent dying. Just saying like Superman's dead, and just so the world knows that Superman's not going to come and save the day if they're expecting it. Like, they need to know that he's not there. And that's for, like, authorities around the world also. But we do see the General Lane is back at the DOD and is sort of strategizing the best way to handle the current situation in regards to not only Superman not being there, but also the Lex Luthor situation without Superman and dealing with that. And this involves the Irons, like John, Henry and Natalie returning and being on, like, the books, if you want to call it, for the DOD. Now, we do get a few flashbacks in this episode, but they're all really centered around the same thing. But it starts off with a very, I think this is probably the funniest, if not the only like humor-based scene in this episode, I think. And that's when we get Lois and Clark in General Lane's office at the DOD, and this is them both there to reveal to General Lane that Clark is Superman. And I have to say, I don't know if it's gonna happen, And I do wonder if, like, the person who wrote it was like, oh, this could be used in an edit. But there's a bit where Superman, before he actually reveals it, like, takes off his glasses, which is done in a very overly dramatic, but it's intentionally over dramatic to be funny sort of way. Like, wait, he just wears glasses? But the bit where Superman goes, I'm him, I can see that being used in, like, those edits that you see, whether it's on TikTok or just on social media in general. And then some, like, whether it's just clips from the show or just some random stuff, but him saying like I'm him, it's dying for like a Superman edit to be placed around it. But as I said, Lois does publish that article on Superman dying just so the world sort of knows like he's not going to be there. And obviously this is, Jonathan and Jordan both find it, and this leads to Jonathan roasting Jordan. They do have a bit of a verbal argument in a fight, which involves Jonathan getting very angry, smashing stuff around and punching the wall. And this anger and sort of like physical damage that he does, this shocked me. Like, the thing that happens at the end of the episode, I wasn't necessarily overly surprised with, just because there's a couple of things that we knew that made it seem like something like that was going to happen. It was more the manner and what happens afterwards that was surprising. But Jonathan's powers activate in this episode. We now have both the sons have powers. I feel like the ending of this episode is going to completely underplay how big that is. I was shocked. If the stuff at the end of the episode didn't happen, this would have still been a massive moment, one of the biggest moments in the entire show. I was like, what the, like, there was nothing hinting at it. It came out of nowhere, but it wasn't forced, if that makes sense. It made sense because Jonathan sort of ruined his arm, like, or they smashed his hand up and everything like that. It made sense in regards to it, but I wasn't expecting it. I honestly thought that they would go through this entire show, come the series finale and just going forward, and Jonathan wouldn't have powers. And I would have been fine with that, but at the same time, it makes, like, it's very logical that he would also get powers like Jonathan, and the way they did it, incredibly surprising. But we do see that Jonathan is a complete natural with his powers. He's like, what took Jordan like 2 or 3 seasons to learn, Jonathan's learned within a couple of hours. Like, he's flying around the world and stuff. And was he collecting, like, was it fridge magnets or something like that? I don't know what he was collecting, but he said like, oh, San Francisco, this, that, the other. Like, he'd been to multiple places and got, I think they were fridge magnets or something like that, or little pins or something. Now, I think one of the things that was said was that it was because, like, I think General Lane says to Lois, like, he's a natural born leader, he's like a fireman, but I didn't want to him, like, the fact that he was an athlete, which of course has sort of been downplayed in the past, especially last season, I guess. Like, they didn't really do too much stuff with the football stuff, because wasn't the team, like, banned or something? I can't remember, or something like that, because the ex-Kryptonite drama. But I'm assuming that he's, like, prowess as an athlete and stuff like that, and him just, I guess, being overall just generally athletic helps when he gets powers like this. Now, we do have John Henry with a fairly, like, decently sized dilemma, I guess you could say, throughout this episode, in wanting to give Natalie a normal life on this earth, and not letting it be dragged down by any of the superhero business or any over the top drama. But also, he wants to stand up now that Superman is no longer here, and it's like, how do you really balance that? Like, Natalie can go to school and stuff, but at the end of the day, her dad's flying around in a steel suit, and it's like super suit sort of thing, and putting his life on the line every single day. Like, that's not a normal life. Like, a normal life would be John Henry going to work every day. That's not involving explosions or something like that, or being crushed by an alien. That would be a normal life, just day to day, 9 to 5, come home, have dinner, watch TV. That's a normal life. But an interesting twist in this is the fact that, Natalie wants to help. Like, she is now living this normal life and she can balance it, but also she's in a position where she can help this world against something like Doomsday and Lex Luther, while she couldn't on the previous Earth, which they lost. And she can protect the people she loves, and she wasn't able to protect her mum. So I think that's a great character development leading into the choice that they make throughout the episode, and also what will happen, I'd assume, going forward in this season. Now, some of the other flashbacks that we get is that we do get General Lane denying Clark asking for his blessing to marry Lois, just because it's just like the not wanting to hurt Lois and the potential risks that's there, which obviously has played out in the present day. And General Lane's been living that as well in regards to seeing Lois go through it. And it was one of the warnings that he had with Clark marrying Lois all those years ago. And we will come back to that because the writing and how they structure the final couple of flashbacks into what happens at the end was so perfectly done, so we will come back to that when relevant. Now, we do have John Henry and Natalie agreeing to be like formally agreeing, actually being at the DoD. They're formally agreeing to, be, summoned in and work with the DoD. And they do get their names. We have Steel, which, we've been calling him for a while, but also Starlight, which I don't know if is in the comics. I'd assume it's something in the comics that's based around that, but yeah, Starlight is her name. Which obviously, if you're a fan of the boys, like, hold on, that name's taken. That name's taken. But this is the DC universe. We can use that name if we want. Now, one thing I was like, oh god, he is like just roaming around fairly comfortably. But we get Lex Luther, arriving at the barn at the Kent farm. Obviously, at this point, Lois and Jonathan aren't there. It's just Jordan. But he arrives at the barn and uses the ultimatum, which I'd forgot about. I forgot this even happened. Just thought, oh, it was just something for last episode. But I should have thought, it's Lex Luther, man. He's stocking up weaponry. He's not just, shooting off willy-nilly. He's keeping it in the barrel, if you know what I mean, or putting it in the pocket for the next day or the next episode or something. But he uses the ultimate that Lois found herself in last episode, which was to choose between Jonathan and Jordan as to who should live. And at that point, you got to remember that Jonathan was at no risk. Like Lex Luthor wasn't near him or anything like that. But at that point, Lex Luthor's had Jordan at his fingertips and could have killed him if he wanted to. And Lois chose to save Jonathan and for, I guess, Jordan to theoretically or hypothetically be killed. And Lois does say, powers and stuff like that. And obviously that would be probably something that maybe Jordan would have considered, but at the same time, it's just he was actually in that position where he could have been killed. He was getting, if Lex Luthor wanted to kill him, he could have killed him. He let him go and just destroyed the heart. And then at that point, Jordan got all that flack as well because the heart was destroyed. So Jordan was just getting piled on, I guess, in regards to that situation. But we do have Hardcastle, that's like the officer's name of the DoD, concerned that General Lane is going to use Mannheim's solution to create his own doomsday. So pretty much the solution that was constantly used on, Bizarro Superman to sort of bring him back to life and everything like that. Hardcastle's concerned that Lane's going to do the same thing, which we don't necessarily know exactly what the end game would have been like in regards to if certain other events didn't happen in this episode, but we know what it was eventually used for. And this is when Jones, another DoD officer, is blackmailed by Lex Luthor to get Lane to tell him where his daughter is, because we learned last episode that General Lane is the only one that knows where Elizabeth Luthor, Lex's daughter, actually is. General Lane is shot by this officer, who is I'll use my one expletive of this episode. He's a fucking idiot. But anyway, what an idiot. Anyway, General Lane gets shot and he injects the Mannheim serum into himself, which at that point, I was like, oh, okay, this is just sort of just helium or something like that, not knowing exactly what was going to be the case at the end of the episode, which we'll talk about. But we have Doomsday flying to the DoD. They have him tracked and everything like that, with Steel, aka John Henry, and Starlight, aka Natalie, going up to verse him. It's just sort of a bit to slow him down, I guess you could say. They don't really do too much stuff there. I think they'd probably learn going into the next fight, if there is going to be one, in regards to how to go about that differently. But then again, they're versing someone that is clearly way more overpowered than they are. But this is when we jump into the final flashback. And this is General Lane on Lois and Clark's wedding day, or more particular, Lois's wedding day, understanding Clark and Lois's relationship and then ending up giving the blessing and everything like that. And this is when we do get General Lane coming out the front of the DoD, confronting Doomsday, not giving into Luthor's demands, and he is killed. It's not as gruesome as I thought it might have been. I thought they were going to do something gnarly where Doomsday was going to peg him, slam him, throw him really hard at the ground or something something gross like that and make him splatter. But he just gets these sort of neck snapped, or he just gets crushed. It's he's in big, Doomsday's big fist hand thing. So it's not overly graphic, which I guess is a good thing in a bad situation, if that makes sense. But just that entire situation mixed with the flashbacks and that really emotional scene in a good way between Lois and General Lane in the flashback on the wedding day, mixed with this very excruciatingly painful on the side of emotion in the present day. I was tearing up pretty hard. But this is when we have John Henry all of a sudden coming back and taking Sam's body to the fortress. And it was at that point I'm like, oh shit, that actually, no way. That this was a quick plan of action by General Lane, the strategist, in regards to what they could do to save Superman and the importance of Superman to the world and to Lois over himself. At the end of the day, this was a sacrifice that General Lane made. And John Henry takes his body to the fortress, and this is in order to use his heart, which is flowing with the serum that, is made from Superman's blood, in order to then donate to Superman. So if it was just General Lane's heart, as it was if it was 2 days ago, wouldn't work. It'd be this is stupid. It's not the same heart. But at the moment, in like a very short window of time, right now, the heart is compatible to transfer and they have to act quick. And I was like, oh my God, I wouldn't even thought of that. Like, I wouldn't even thought of that if you were writing it up and stuff. I was incredibly surprised that they went down that road. Like, I think everyone watching the show, if they're thinking, well, how are they going to get a heart for Superman? I think everyone would have thought they kill Doomsday somehow and get his heart. I think that's how, I don't think anyone was thinking, oh, they can inject themselves with the serum from last season and then they can put, like, no one, but it makes 100% sense. And then we get General Lane's final message to Lois. Like, it was directly to Lois because I guess I guess he wouldn't know there would have been that big of an audience when watching it. And that was once again just a very emotional thing. And I must say, Bitsy like must have been like, I'm sure she enjoyed filming this final season of the show, but I must say, at least for these first 3 episodes, she's just been like an emotional wreck. And I mean, I think we all know that she's a good actress and stuff, but man, it's been like all emotional stuff and it must be pretty damn tough. But this is all when it leads up, and this, I think, was the bit where I was like, oh God, and I actually started like proper crying, was when we find out that the funeral at the start of the episode, which every single person watching would have thought, oh, that's for Clark, that's for their father and their husband, was actually for General Lane, and that John, Henry and Natalie were also there for that funeral. I was like, oh my God, and sort of like the waterworks started, because it was just, the episode was completely perfect in regards to the build up, like the misleads, but not in like a frustrating way, just in a bit to like sort of extend things and not make you jump to conclusions at the same time. As I said, I think they nailed the episode, and we do get a tag at the end of the episode. I didn't necessarily think we could have done it at the beginning of next episode if they wanted to, but then again, there might be a time jump. I don't know. They might do a time jump between this episode and next episode of like a week or two or something like that. And that might allow what happens at the end of the episode, because they said that like it could take a while for Superman to like fully regenerate and stuff like that. But we get Superman in the fortress regaining life. He wakes up. So they could have done it at the beginning of next week's episode, but I think there could be a time jump, which is why they put it at the end of this episode, just so it's like, well, that happened 2 weeks ago and we pick up this episode 2 weeks after General Lane dies, or whatever it is, or a week after, whatever it might be. So yeah, there is that tag, which I wasn't too surprised to see. As soon as they showed the fortress, I'm like, well, it's going to show Superman waking up. But at least we know that the heart transfer worked and it wasn't for nothing. But yeah, man, this episode was so good. As I said, I think it's arguably, like, in regards to a single episode that's not just like full of fights and stuff like that, but full of story, character stuff, whether it's development or, you know, writing up a character. Who would have thought General Lane could have arguably one of the, if not the best character conclusions in this entire show? This was a character that was not going to be in this final season. If anyone knows, there was like, this was the one character where he potentially wasn't going to be in this final season. Everyone else would have come back. He would have been the only one. I think it was a last minute thing where they were able to sort of, and then the writer's strike and everything like that. His character was not going to be in this season originally. Thank God he ended up being in here, because what an episode and what a conclusion to a character. So yeah, like I don't like rating episodes. I mean, it's obvious by the way I'm saying it. I'd give it a 10 out of 10 if I was rating the episode. Anyway, let's just say 12 out of 10. 12 out of 10, they nailed it. And I'm so excited to see what they do next, because I thought the General Lane was going to die this episode, just because I knew that this was the Dylan Walsh, who's the actor. I knew that this was his final episode. We knew that he was only going to be in episodes 1, 2, and 3. So it wasn't surprising that he left, but it was just the manner and the story around it. And that's how you got to handle it well, is how you manage it. And they managed it perfectly, but I would actually probably say beyond perfect. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. For you to be awesome, you could drop a like and show support. Let me know in the comments section down below your thoughts on this episode. Did you love it as much as I did? Did you get emotional? Boy, I got emotional. But yeah, let me know your opinions in the comments section down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.